we've got Alex on the podcast here today. So you are a partner at a brand new business you've just launched recently, but you've actually been in Dubai for quite a long time. So tell us perhaps why you moved here and when you moved here and how you're finding it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in Dubai now for 15 years, so a very long time. My whole working career has been in Dubai, really. To take me back to sort of early career, if you like, I started in Reading on a graduate recruitment course for S3, but ended up, I suppose the reason I moved here was my parents were actually living here, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had no ties in the UK. I had nothing keeping me there. I'd just done 3 years in the UK with Progressive, part of S3, on a graduate training program, as I mentioned, which was a great experience. And then my parents were here and I thought, well, why not? Why not take the leap?
So what was it like here when you first moved here? I bet it was so different to what it is like now.
Yeah, absolutely. My goodness. So my mum originally went and saw one of the Shoreline apartments on the Palm, and there was like literally maybe Shoreline 1 or 2, or like a few of them were built, but not all of them. And I remember her looking around sort of thinking, well, yeah, these are lovely, but there's nothing here. So like the whole of the Palm wasn't built, basically.
And the funny thing is you live on the Palm now.
Yeah, I know. I've lived on the Palm like 10 years now. I love it.
Oh my God. Okay, cool. So I guess take us back to the beginning of your career in recruitment and kind of walk us through your career, because you've had, I guess, slightly different career path to most people, where they just kind of stay in agency, move once or twice and then start their own business, whereas yours has been kind of a bit of more of a windy road, I guess.
Yeah, good way of putting it. I've definitely touched on a few different sort of areas in my career. But so we started, I suppose, like anyone, I kind of fell into recruitment. I think most people will say this, that you don't choose recruitment chooses you, if you like. And I was no different. So I didn't even know what to study when I was like in school. And if I had a crystal ball, or in hindsight, I wish I'd kind of done HR, psychology, which I love, or like even marketing, because I think most recruiters these days are marketeers before anything else.
Well, that's what I studied, actually. So I studied marketing, but I was already in recruitment by the time I was graduating. And I was just like, oh, maybe I should go into marketing.
Yeah.
Looked at the salaries, looked at what the job is, and I was like, absolutely not. I actually love recruitment. I can't see myself doing anything else. And I just stayed and I haven't looked back. But yeah, it's especially now with like personal branding and all that stuff being so big for businesses, I think a marketing degree is definitely helpful. Although I do still think it was a waste of time and money, to be honest.
Not as much as mine. Tourism management I did. It was basically a drinker's degree. Like, I can't call it anything else. But we had a great time getting it. And then I was like, well, what am I going to use that for? I'm not going to go and be a travel agent. I mean, goodness. So not that there's anything wrong with travel agents out there, but
travel agent is actually my dream job.
Is it? I feel like it's a dying it's almost it's a dying role. Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I was like, what do I do? I've got friends that were in real estate and friends that were in recruitment. And I thought, okay, well, you just learn on the job. And there's lots of graduate training programs out there, or graduate recruitment programs for it. So I applied for a few of those, and I interviewed with Huxley, Progressive, and then a spin-off. Some of the guys from S3 at senior level had set up their own business in Reading, and I interviewed with all of those. And to be honest, it was all in IT. So I actually started on an IT contract desk doing .NET development, which was a great market. And I suppose contract recruitment is so like fast paced. So I'm kind of glad I started there. And I suppose this brings me, I suppose, in terms of for the listeners and stuff, like it's so important to have a really good role model or mentor or first manager, which is why I chose the job that I went into. Because my first boss was a guy called John Chapman, and he was just full of personality. I said, look, I know nothing about IT or recruitment, obviously. And he was like, you don't need to know about IT. You just need to know the buzzwords to get by, and you kind of learn on the job. So that was really, really fascinating.
Yeah, it's important, I think, for people starting out in any job, really, to kind of look beyond things like the salaries and the benefits and the fruit on a Tuesday and flexible working, and really choose the manager that will be able to kind of shape your career. Because if you do choose a bad manager, you're not going to be in that job in a year, especially in recruitment. I
suppose you never choose a bad manager, though, do you? You kind of fall in the lap of one by accident and then only realise over time that they're not really adding value to your career.
Sometimes you can tell, though. I mean,
agreed. If you know,
even based on the managers that I've worked at when I was in internal recruitment, I mean, some of them I wouldn't have worked for myself, and I had to like try and sell the graduates, but we would kind of choose the right personalities for that manager as well. But because not everyone's going to be right for everyone. Like you must have liked someone who has more personality and energy, but then someone else would like someone who kind of has more process and structure. So well, yeah, choose the right manager maybe is the word, not good manager.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, who knows, I think it's so important to sort of build the foundation of your career, someone that sets you on the right path, teaches you how to do the basics really, really well. And he'd been quite successful at training a few top billers within the London team. So I knew, and he was a huge biller himself as well. So I think often, and this might lead to stuff we talk about a bit later on, but leading by example and having someone that walks the walk, it's a lot more, it's then easier for them to kind of manage and lead teams, right?
Yeah, and it was easy for you as a fresh graduate to see what's possible as well. I think for me, when I started out, I've joined quite a low performing team, for example. So like you don't see what you can actually do and make in recruitment when only one person in the team is doing it and they're working 6 days a week to get that. But when you join someone who's really successful and you can just see what's possible, you do so much better than people who are working for people who are just not doing that well themselves.
Without a doubt. I think
or kind of fell out of love with it as well.
Yeah, I think anyone that's listened to this now that's like early in their sort of recruitment career, like to make sure that you attack, who are the big billers in the business, like spend time with them, like sit with them, learn sort of what they do, be a sponge to that, and make sure that you focus on, developing the skills and absorbing the right information. Yeah. And podcasts is a great way to do that.
Yeah.
Learning from other people's journeys.
And learning from people that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. But so you started at S3, and then how long were you there for?
I was there for just shy of 3 years. It's about 2.5 years or so, I think. We did, and it was great. I hit loads of club lunches. It was one of those classic recruitment businesses that was it was great for the sort of young up and coming individuals. You had, everyone went out on a Thursday. There was a big drinking culture on the Thursday. Everyone was hungover on the Friday, but you still had your sort of targets and goals for hitting the phone, and you had certain club lunches and holidays, and our Christmas parties were absolutely crazy. Like they rolled out the red carpet. They'd have paparazzi at the end, like taking photos of you. And then they would give away either Aston Martins or Bentleys for a year for like the top billers. You had certain tickets go into like a raffle, if you like. And then they would pull them out, and you had like a week on Sunil Sunseeker, or it was
honestly
wild.
I wish I was like 10 years older and I could have done recruitment like 10-15 years ago, because that just sounds amazing.
I think anyone that builds companies from there, like still do try and build that culture into the business. I know, in fact, most of the people from my office in Reading, a big chunk of them have their own recruitment businesses now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, loads of S3 people. I find they do breed a lot of entrepreneurs, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a couple businesses out here owned by S3 people as well. Ex-S3.
Yeah, without a doubt. No, well, there's so many of them. They're a huge business.
Yeah, true.
From a numbers perspective.
Okay. So, and then you left S3 after 3 years to move over to Dubai.
That's right. Yeah. So I decided to go traveling for a short while. And then, like I said, my parents were here. It made sense to move over. In all honesty, when I was doing recruitment in the UK, as much as I did well, I enjoyed it, I maybe felt something was missing or wanted to do something else. So when I first moved to Dubai, I actually really wanted to get into like software sales. Yeah. Like people are so unpredictable. And selling people, it's not the easiest thing to do. Like you've got to manage, a lot.
We're changing lives.
Yeah, of course. Don't get me wrong. It's so rewarding when it's done well, and you've got a great business and a great individual, and the marriage, the culture, everything fits. Like there's no greater feeling than that. We all know about the recruitment sort of roller coaster, the ups, the highs are incredible, and the lows are, you kind of go on a bit of a spiral, and they're hard to pull yourself out. I just brush off
and move on, to be honest. After a few years in recruitment, you kind of learn.
You have to
just brush it off. You have to, otherwise it just gets too hard, I think, for people when you just take everything so personally. And it's not personal at the end of the day.
No,
ever.
100%.
Okay, so you went into tech sales?
Well, I wanted to. I was like, let's sell a product. Let's learn everything about this product and then do that instead. But I was interviewing with a company here. I just moved out here, first job. They had IT software sale roles advertised, so I reached out because of that. And then the guy just constantly wanted to push me to come into his team. So
it happens a lot, I think.
It was so funny. And I was like, no, I really don't want to do that. I'll come in and speak to you, but it's for like a role, with one of your clients. Anyway, they basically ended up making me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I was like, okay, I'll join them. Did IT. And one thing I want to, so I did before in the UK, I'd been very specialised. So obviously you had very specialist sectors sort of broken down within the information technology. Whereas here, I kind of had the whole market at the time. It wasn't sort of, the team wasn't broken down into specialist areas. So I think there's, I felt like I spread myself too thin.
Yeah.
So I think it's really, really important that especially for anyone listening that has a large desk they're going into, it's like, okay, well, look at the areas that are really booming and really try and like specialize in something, because
and
it really niche down, I think.
Yeah, I think I've seen a post on LinkedIn. I can't remember who it was, but the guy basically built his business and a quote from him was to niche down so hard they can't call anyone else about their roles because you're the specialist.
Yeah.
So I think that is really important, and it's very easy to fall into the trap of like just going after everything, and you know, if a client calls you with the role, to reject it or to give it to someone else is very hard when we can just see the dollar signs with the placement. But I think it is really, really important for people to really specialize and niche down and kind of just have the focus on one particular area or one particular skill in any industry when you're recruiting.
Yeah, I think you see your billings go through the roof. I think if you look at sort of top billers out there and what they do specialize. They have a specialist niched area. They have they know everything about that. And then, like you said, you've then got a number of clients and you get a great candidate and you can sort of send them to lots of different places rather than, like you said, constantly reworking a role. And I've spoken to so many recruiters over the time, especially during my time here, who want to be a bit of a jack of all trades. And to be honest, that was classic in my career to start with. I actually prided myself, if you like, on being a jack of all trades. The fact that I could turn my hand, I knew sourcing methodologies, I knew I could find anything. So I sort of prided myself on with clients saying, you can give me any really niche, hard to fill role and I will fill it. But it was only later in my career, I think, when I really did specialise and my billings went sort of through the roof. So it's a
painful transition though, isn't it? When you're kind of going from doing everything into focusing on one specific thing, and then you have to reject things and you have to let things go, and you might not bill as much because there's no jobs in your area for a little bit, or you have to work a bit harder on the BD, or you can't source, there's no candidates suddenly. So it takes probably, I would say, a good few months to kind of like really niche down, but then your billing, you can just see your billings go through the roof. Yeah,
it takes time. I think you've got to be prepared to walk away from stuff, and so many people don't want to. As you said, they see dollar signs walking out the door, and they, especially if you're your own business owner, there's a few guys I've spoken to as well that sort of set up without being specialists and want to be sort of cover everything. And I'm saying, well, you're only billing this. If you had actually specialised and just said no to other things, then you're probably going to see yourself billing a lot more.
Interesting. So you joined that company for a few years?
It was about 3 years, I think it was. And then I actually got headhunted for a business that was an exec search firm that was setting up a contingent arm. And so there was a few people that they'd taken actually out of the team. When I was with the first business I worked with, I started in IT, but within 6 months I moved to supply chain manufacturing. Yes. So that was me sort of pivoting from one desk and again, setting up another desk, if you like, not from scratch. There was a lady there that was sort of running the team. But again, working under her was great. And I think early in your career, maybe if you do turn your hand to a few things, there are, benefits of doing that and benefits of working under sort of different managers and how other people lead, how other people do it. And again, sort of absorbing information from different avenues and stuff. Yeah. So I moved into supply chain. And so I did the supply chain manufacturing, that sort of desk for about 4 years. Mm-hmm. While at that business, I think I did my biggest placement. It was about 355,000 dirhams. It was a huge.
That's crazy.
It was a huge role. I sort of smashed my targets for that quarter. Like straight away, I think I billed about 1.2 million, and then I got headhunted. No, it was over the year. That was over the year.
That would be insane.
Yeah, that was when I really sort of focused my attention and, like I said, sort of niche down, specialised. Had the right clients. Looked at the job gradings properly, like making sure you're sort of prioritising who are your best clients, who pays well, who turns stuff around, and like focusing your priorities, because that desk was really, really busy. So you had to get good at prioritizing what you were focusing on, etc. Yeah. But so then moved ship, worked in that company for about a year, and then I got the opportunity to go in house. So I went to the dark side. I am actually really glad. It's funny because most people say that anyone goes in-house, you're a failed recruiter, only failed recruiters do that. But, I'd been doing classically, fairly well. I just think something had always been sort of missing in my career for me. I grew up probably thinking that I would always be in the corporate world. I don't know why, I can't really explain it, but I've always sort of felt that I fit into that, wanted to climb the corporate ladder and be sort of senior within a big, well-known established business, rather than ever growing up with that initial entrepreneurial flair, thinking I will always run my own business. I probably didn't think like that, actually. So I had a friend that was working with a construction business, and they had a business within that business that was quite specialised in construction claims and disputes. And they were looking for a recruiter to be based here because they had huge growth plans. So she put me forward. And so again, I moved from IT to supply chain logistics to now construction.
Yeah, your favourite?
Yeah, exactly. Well, now I've been in that for over 10 years or so now. So it's been a long stint there. But they were a great business, big American firm, very much like an autonomous role. You kind of had to learn on the job, if you like, because I hadn't done an in-house role before. Very different from agency. I suppose agency really is a sales job. My dad always said this to me. He was like, my dad was HR director for big American consultancy firms, Bechtel, CH2M Hill, those guys. And I was like, oh, look, Dad, I followed the same career as you. When I was in agency, he was like, no, you're in sales. And I was like,
see, I have the same conversation, but in reverse, where recruiters or aspiring recruiters reach out to me and they're like, I'd love a career in HR. And I was like, recruitment has nothing to do with HR. Get this out of your head. It's a sales job.
Yeah, but I actually think there's huge value in my time spent there. Gives you that other sort of perspective, right? So it's still, because there's still a sales element to it. You're still selling that company to a candidate, or selling, the job to an individual. But like you said, where there isn't the commission, you're more focused on quality. Obviously, you care more because you're responsible for the quality that comes in that door, how it develops, and the impact that it has on that business.
And how long they stay as well. You really want to focus. I mean, as recruiters, we want our candidates to stay as well, but not as much as when we can see the hiring managers struggle and we know we're going to have to resource for that role again.
Well, exactly. I think that those are some of the fundamental differences. It's like in agency, you have the pick of your client, so you can't walk away from a hard job. If you've got a really difficult hiring manager or a really difficult job, you can kind of be like, I've got other stuff to focus on, so I'll just leave that. You can't do that in-house. So that was the difference. It's a very different pressure and a different stress, because you can't run away from things that you don't want to fill because they need to get filled, you know. And you've got to look at other metrics like time to hire, sort of cost per hire, and all those kind of things sort of get built in. But you understand the cost of a bad hire. You understand how important culture and the soft skills. So you kind of, interviewing and recruiting is sort of not less. I've taken what I've learned from that, and having gone back to agency now, where I can apply that, I feel like I can have a very different level of conversation with the people I'm approaching. So it definitely gives you an edge.
So obviously I've done agency, then I went in-house in agency, hiring recruiters, and now I'm back, kind of similar career actually. I mean, I've still stayed within the recruitment agency setting, but it's a completely different understanding of a business, I think, than other recruiters would have, not having worked in-house. And let's just make this very clear, recruiters who go in-house are not failed recruiters. It is very hard though to come back from going in-house to go back into agency, because agencies just do think that you're a failed recruiter a lot of the time, and they don't want you. They think you just don't want to do sales and business development, where actually I think when you've gone in-house and you have a really good understanding of how businesses operate and how important hiring is on a deeper level, then you can actually have better conversations with your clients while doing business development.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be honest, it was coming back to agency my initial choice. Probably I absolutely adored my in-house role, but COVID hit, didn't it? So COVID's been such a catalyst in where my career's gone in the last 4 years. It's kind of, I always have to look back and sort of think it's mad how the last 4 years have sort of unfolded. It wasn't actually necessarily, I loved my in-house role, so it wasn't really an active choice to sort of think, I'm going to go back and turn my hand back to recruitment agency life again. But because COVID hit, there was a huge recruitment freeze where I was working, and so I basically lost my job and was in a position where I had to sort of reevaluate what I wanted to do. I knew I could always fall back on my recruitment agency career no matter what. I didn't expect that when I did come back, how much more I would actually enjoy it. So I actually, like I said, I really found a newfound love for what I was doing, because actually I do get to help so many more people. And I do find, again, business development is, not something I ever shied away from, but definitely something that I actively enjoy now. I think maybe that comes with age as well. Like once you've got a bit more sort of tenure behind you and you're having very different levels of conversations with people. It's just so much more enjoyable again. So you can help a far greater portion of people, I suppose.
Okay. And then when you went back into agency, I guess you went a step further from going in-house, on probably quite a good salary, to going commission only.
Absolutely. So I think I always knew I could fall back on that agency side. And I got an opportunity to work with a lady that I'd met in my first role briefly, who had her own business, and she wanted me to set up a sustainability desk, actually. This is how I ended up focusing back on the market that I'd worked when I was in-house, which is much more construction claims and sort of disputes. But it was a bit of a scary thing to do. And again, would I have done it actively if I was choosing to do it? But because of COVID, you kind of your hand got forced in certain areas, which forced me out of my comfort zone and into something that ended up, being such a huge growth for me, I suppose, more than anything. So yeah, her model is, they have a specific split. You're almost paying a percentage to have access to like a back office support. So it's almost like running your own business, but within somebody else's brand, which made it a lot easier to get going. You didn't feel that you were on your own because it was a big shock. Obviously, we were all secluded or isolated during COVID, but going from an office environment, obviously, where, we had such a great culture within the business, to being isolated at home and having to sort of fill your time, to then going commission only and working still from home was really, really, really challenging. And I probably did struggle with that whole home working and sort of, not that I'm not self-motivated, but just motivating your sort of self every day.
Even if you are in the office, it's hard to motivate yourself every single day and be, on a high and ready to go every single day, regardless. But when you are on your own at home, and I've worked on my own for a few months, and I'm loving it now. I've got an office, I've got a team member. Hopefully, we're going to have another one soon. Amazing. So it's just.
It's when you find your feet and when you find your routine and you realise I've got to set a routine. So actually I'm going to get up at because I had a real set routine. I trained at 6 a.m. religiously. Then you get ready, go into the office, and now I can train a bit later, which is lovely, isn't it? So you can do your gym as and when you want and fit working around it. So there's a huge freedom, and there's a lot, in my opinion, to be said about, still making really, really good money, but being a master of your own time and having that freedom. That's been a total game changer. Yeah.
So I guess that kind of set you up in terms of like your confidence and being able to do what you do now, while working with Recruitment Entrepreneur, and obviously setting up your own business, Taylor Selling Beyond.
Yeah, I think in the last 4 years, everything's almost been setting me up for these moves. It's sort of like, I feel like I've sort of dipped my hand into different areas that I would never have touched before, like doing the commission only thing with Louise and the team, showed me sort of how to build a business from scratch again, I suppose. And how to again be a master of my own time and sort of dictate that. And then I got approached for Recruitment Entrepreneur, which again allowed me to stay connected to the recruitment space, but also look at investing in other people that were looking to build and sort of expand businesses, etc., which has been a completely fascinating experience. And then you learn about the value that you can instill in a recruitment business and what buyers are looking for and sort of how to exit, which then led me to ending up sort of doing my own thing. I suppose, again, they kind of, my partners kind of found me in one way.
So tell us more about that. How did they find you?
Yeah, I actually, from doing the Recruitment Entrepreneur thing, it opened up a lot of doors, and I was being approached by quite a few people, companies from the UK wanting to come out here and expand and grow and scale, companies that are, looking to sort of scale and exit in sort of Saudi and different places. And I think Marcus and Chris sort of really jumped out at me. Marcus has had his own business for quite some time, Taylor Sterling, within the built environment. He only, focuses on the construction sector. And Chris, actually, our other partner, is the commercial director for WSP for like 15 years. So we've got a guy from industry. Yeah. So we've got that real deep sort of technical expertise, which is important. But he also has his own business for the last 4 years. He was offering commercial advisory to various companies. So they're both very entrepreneurial. I met Marcus when I was in my in-house role, actually, with Turner and Townsend, and he'd approached me. He was doing a bit of a tech venture, so he's also very tech savvy. So he had his own recruitment business, and then he launched a tech venture, and now we've kind of married the businesses and collaborated together to ideally present like a bit of a physician approach to the built environment. So we've got one client vertical, and essentially any service or offering that the business might need, whether, you know, we'll go in and sort of look at what their pain points are, look at what their growth strategies are, look at where their gaps are or issues that they're having. And my in-house experience has helped me with that in terms of helping people improve and offer business consulting on sort of corporate stuff, but also their own recruitment process. We can do RPO, so we can take over their recruitment process for them. Obviously, where we're all a little bit older now, you naturally tend to gravitate towards more senior level roles. Yeah. So we found ourselves doing a lot more executive search. Marcus focuses a lot on executive search. We're very much talking at the board level to individuals. And then we've got Chris, who is focused on our on-demand business, which is almost like contracting, but we also deliver tasks and services. So we have recruitment, you know, we're recruitment enabled. We can offer recruitment services, but we're also a consulting business on every line, whether it's, you know, them building or scaling their businesses to even wanting to do mergers and acquisitions and, you know, get a sale or an exit at the end. We can bring advisors and specialists in, either permanently or also on our own payroll, if you like I said, delivering or filling a capacity or capability issues that our clients might have.
Okay, interesting. And then, so obviously you launched recently, so I think a lot of our listeners would be interested about sort of knowing about the process of launching a business. And you've done a great job kind of having press releases and everything, which I missed a trick on. But so I'm very, very curious to hear about a little bit more about that.
Again, I feel quite lucky with who I went into business with, because they're quite used to stuff like that. And I think based on their sort of knowledge of the market or their presence in the market, you know, these things do get picked up. But yeah, setting up your own business, it's hard work. We ended up launching a new co because it was actually a different setup when we first started having conversations to what actually transpired. So, which is exciting, because it is nice to know that you're launching something new. You're all sort of equally going into this, you know, with the mindset of building something that we're proud of at the end. But a lot of hard work goes into that, building the website, getting the website, you know, right, and looking sort of the make and feel that you want, you know, all of the collateral that's required, getting all the systems and procedures set up internally to allow you to scale and hire people eventually. We're working kind of remotely rather than having the big cost of an office at the moment. And then, luckily, again, the guys have got great contacts. So we wrote a press release, and that's been picked up by a number of publications. I had the opportunity to do an editorial piece for Real Estate Magazine for the future of women in construction on International Women's Day, which we obviously jumped at the chance to do. I think, again, when you're starting out, it's so important to, you mentioned earlier, personal brand, right? I think it's not always been something that I'm natural at. It's not something that, you know, I'd rather have someone else doing some of that stuff for me. It takes me forever to write an article or write something because I want it to be perfect. Whereas, you know, it's important that people can see you. People can't work with you if they don't know you. And if they can't see you, then, you know, that's kind of half the battle. So
yeah, of course.
You've got to put that foot forward.
You know, you need to make it easy for people to find you as well. Exactly.
So having your brand right on LinkedIn, having the right search engine optimization for the websites, having, you or whoever you're going into business with, writing stuff that, you know, your audience are going to find interesting. You know, it's not just it's for everyone. You want people to be inspired to work with you when you're looking to scale and you need numbers in the business, but also your clients and stuff like that need to know that you're a thought leader in that industry.
Well, I think you guys have done a tremendous job.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely loved the photos and the press release and the article and everything. So I guess what's next for you?
Oh gosh, what's next? Well, I mean, really, we've just literally announced the launch. So for me, it's all hands to deck. Business development is the focal. We've obviously got ourselves set up, hopefully, for success in terms of delivery, because delivery is absolutely key. But yeah, I want to do... I just went to a Women in Construction event this morning. So getting out there for more networking events, doing business development, re-engaging with our previous audience and, you know, people that I know really well. We've got a launch party coming. See where the business goes over the next year, I think.
Exciting. Any holidays planned, or are you just sort of hands on deck in Dubai working?
Yeah, you know what it's like. I mean, I suppose once you first start out, I think for me, and also I've not really been sort of earning a specific, a salary for the last few months while all this has been going on. So I'll probably have my head down this year. I did do a little trip earlier in the year, and I might get away for the summer for a short week. But
I feel like a new mother having a business, honestly. I was speaking to someone earlier this morning, and I feel like I have a baby. So like if my baby, Rachel, is off, I was like, I can take it a little bit slower, maybe not go into the office and kind of take it easy. But apart from that, there's no holidays, there's literally nothing.
Exactly.
Just can't do anything.
No, but it's quite nice. But when you're setting up, I think there's a real place for like remote working, unlimited holidays. Like I'm a big advocate of this. I think that whole traditional model is kind of like dead a little bit now. So I really want to, I think people should be able to work from anywhere. I think you're much more, there's been a few studies on this to say it can like boost productivity, and people don't take more holiday than they did before either.
Oh, I had a limited holiday. I took less. I mean, I did take a lot, but I would have taken more if it was limited, which is really weird. But like, especially when you work for a smaller business, like the amount of guilt I felt trying to like thinking, I remember my friends went to Greece last June, and I really, really wanted to go, but I was just like, I can't. Like I was away 3 weeks ago for a long weekend, so it wasn't like loads of days off, but I was just like, I really want to go, but I was like, I can't bring myself to even ask. And I know my boss would have said yes if I did ask, but I was like, no, I just need to, like, I'm taking a piss, basically.
I know. Yeah. So Marcus is just about to go away, actually. So he's handing all his stuff over to me. So it's good that we can sort of pick other things up. That brings me to the point that I think it's harder when you've got like that 360 model. Like again, from my last couple of years and what I did with Recruitment Entrepreneur, there's so many people moving away from that 360 model and doing that 180 or 260 where you've got your sales team and then your like delivery team. And maybe it's easier to juggle sort of holidays and stuff when you're running a slightly different model.
Because I'm a big advocate for taking holidays. I want everyone to be on holiday all the time, but just for myself, I just can't do it anymore. I'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, it does take a bit of time. Like I haven't experienced that yet, because right now it's kind of us with a bit of coordination support, if you like. We haven't got huge headcount right now, so we'll see.
And are you guys planning to have an office or?
I think. It really, and again, it's interesting for people because there's a real difference between running like a really successful lifestyle business where you want to focus on bringing as much cash in the door and just being a really big biller and then reinvesting that cash elsewhere, to actually building a business that it has real intrinsic value and is institutional. And I think we're still in that discovery phase where I think, Marcus probably quite likes the idea of running a lifestyle business. And I think we'll do that for the first year. And then myself and Chris might have that interest in actually taking the business, to be something that we might want to exit, which really does require an entirely different approach. Like
Absolutely.
They are wildly different. So
Absolutely. So how are you finding, because 3 co-founders, that's a lot, 3 partners in a business. How are you guys finding kind of working together and making decisions?
I think we're all quite, I think it's really important when you're looking at partners to pick people that like fill in your gaps. Like you need to have a similar like goal and objective and know that you're all aligned fundamentally. But it's always good to have different perspectives. From my time with RE, I've spoken to a number of people that are one-man bands setting up, or individuals, to people that have more than one founder, if you like. And I think there's a lot to be said with having partners to carry you through. Like, you do know what I mean? It's hard to sustain that sort of focus, motivation, and it's really hard. We all know, like, there's easier ways to make money. Recruitment is a hard job. It's not, it's good when you do the basics well, but at the end of the day, there's lots of ups and downs along the journey. So no, I'm really happy that we've got like Chris, like I said, who's from industry, that gives an entirely different perspective. And when we're going into meetings and we can dig that little bit deeper and add that value, that brings huge value to the team as a whole. And then again, Marcus and I are also very different in terms of our approaches. And, he's got the background of understanding how we can use technology to enable us to be better. So again, fundamentally, I think people need to be doing that. I think if you don't know about AI and what the new technology sort of movements are, you're going to get left behind. So we've got that as well. So I think we complement each other really, really, really well.
Great. Amazing. Okay, well, look, Alex, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Pleasure. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. It's been a great experience.
Thank you.